Let's remind you of the current recruiting calendar. We're currently in a dead period, meaning no visits are taking place. Once again, here we are having a discussion about the recruiting calendar, but hey, this one is not hypothetical. Per Nicole Auerbach of The Athletic, the early signing period is expected to move earlier in the month of December to the Wednesday before conference title games, and most notably before the opening of the transfer portal. This is a decent-sized move, not ready to say a big move yet, but we'll ask our analyst here, Smoke Dixon, adding into the conversation. And I'll start with you. We've talked about the chaos of December often. How would this move help alleviate some of the stress that time of year?
Not at all. All we're doing, again, is putting another Band-Aid on the problem that we have. At the end of the day, you're moving it up, 14 days different? It's not going to solve any problems. It's the haves and have-nots. The big-time schools that are well-oiled and they have their organization in proper order, they already have 95% of their signing class already done. They're putting a bow on this thing and moving on. And the ones that are struggling, they have to deal with visits during the season, but you're going to go to an empty stadium. You're not going to see anybody. And it's not doing justice for anybody moving forward. Just leave it as it is. It's not doing anything. The needle's not moved for me, nor anybody else.
I do think that for recruits specifically and for their families, it is going to put a weight off of their shoulders, because the closer it was to that holiday period, right, that third Wednesday of December, close to the Christmas break, I think that added some added stress to a lot of recruits and kind of how they were going to be able to navigate the process. So moving it ahead and moving it to that first Wednesday of December, I think is going to help them. I think it's going to accelerate their process. They're going to have to now take those official visits that maybe they didn't take in the summer or in the spring. They're going to have to take them early in the season, make sure that they have everything lined up. A lot of these players are already early enrollees or signing and then going to campus in time for the spring. So I think this is going to help them get everything in order, and it's going to maybe potentially alleviate some of that stress.
I probably should have said this at the beginning of the segment, but that's why I love that we have both of you here, because Blair talks to some of the recruits and then Smoke comes in having experience working on the front office side in college. So there's different perspectives for all of this, and we're getting both in this segment. The early signing period, if it does end up moving to December 4th, the big move is that it's now going to fall before that winter portal window opens. So Smoke, how would that affect the roster building process with that order now flipped?
Again, another Band-Aid. It's not making a difference, because majority of the prospects that are being poached, that are being tampered with, all that's already happened. Before this December 4th is even mentioned, 95% of the time we know who's going to be in the portal to begin with. So for some of the high school players, it might clean it up in terms of understanding who you're going to get in high school first, and then it goes to the portal next. But at the end of the day, this needle is staying right in the middle, and just moving 14 days is staying exactly the same what we have. An issue moving forward with the NCAA, because there's no structure moving forward until we get a proper answer.
Well, Smoke, I have to push back a little bit more. Call this my own smoke screen, but I think it's going to help the high school recruits, because the biggest hurdle for a lot of players that maybe are in that middle tier has been the fact that the transfer portal has been present, and it's been affecting the scholarship numbers. It's been affecting how many players are able to sign with colleges out of high school. They don't maybe have to go FCS or D2 or to some other level. I think this is going to help those type of prospects that potentially can snatch up one of those spots and make sure that they have a spot on those college rosters. So I do think it's going to help maybe potentially expand the high school pool, and then the transfer portal is going to be a little bit more specific to those colleges. They're going to have to go and attack the areas that they didn't get during the early signing period, and I think it's going to put more of an emphasis on that. It's going to create a focal point and separate high school recruiting from transfer portal recruiting, and then the transfers are going to be more of a need for these college programs.
Well, Blair, from the outside looking in, it might appear that way, but from the inside looking out, it's not. Most programs already have their formula. They might want to go 70-30, portal to high school, 80-20, but whatever formula that you have, you're going to stick to it, because that's what's worked. So regardless of how this window changes for the prospects and the parents, for the people inside those war rooms and in those recruiting walls, it's not. They're going to stay the same. If you're heavy on portal, you're going to stick to it. If you're building yours through high school, it's going to stay the same. This window only creates stress on the ones that they want the stress to be put on. It's a stressless environment. It's a Band-Aid put on this thing again. The needle's not moving. Thanks again, NCAA.
Well, because there's not a huge change with this, it doesn't mess with the player's ability to early enroll, which is something that I know you mentioned, Blair, talking to prospects. They say how important that is. So how does the option to early enroll factor into some of the decisions, when they get ready to commit?
I do think it's a big part of it now, and every recruit that I speak to now either has plans to early enroll or they're planning to graduate early and then be there in time for spring if those schools are on the quarter system. So it's a blueprint now that a lot of prospects are in tune with, and they are lining up their academics in the high school ranks to be able to early enroll. It used to be very rare, or it used to be a low percentage of players that were going to be doing this. Now I think everyone saw this happening, and now as freshmen and sophomores, they're already starting to think about doing this when they are seniors, making sure that they're able to get everything in order and go out. So from a recruiting standpoint, I think it's another element that is now going to push those players to get done with high school, be ready for those bowl practices, potentially enrolling and going to campuses, and I think it's only going to maybe clarify that for the recruits and their families.
Blair, this is one of the things that I do agree with you a little bit more on. All right. It helps these parents and this family, like you said, create that format of getting into school earlier. But a lot of us don't look at it is, regardless of what the date is on this, it's typically when the school year starts. And what a lot of people outside of the classroom are doing is they're trying to put college football in its own space. College football is not in its own space. We're still dealing with universities. When the school year starts is when the school year starts. So regardless of early enrollee or non-early enrollee, the school year still dictates when the typical student athlete gets into that university. But I do agree with you, though.
So just to mess with things a little bit more, also included in this report, the Collegiate Commissioners Association. This is not the NCAA necessarily that's talking about this. It's that group. And they discussed the possibility of a summer signing period that would be in either June or August. This is, of course, not a new concept because, again, we've had this discussion many times about how to fix this calendar. But, Blair, how could this potentially affect high school senior seasons if you move a signing period before that would kick off?
Well, I think that would be a disaster because then there would be a lot of missed evaluations from coaches. Maybe they take a signature in the summer and they're not happy with what they saw from a player in the fall, and then what do you do there, right? I think, and on the flip side as well, there's some late bloomers that potentially signed with another school that they thought maybe they were at that level, and it turns out they're elite Power 5 level, and they have to get out of a different signature. So I think it would just create more issues. It would create more problems if you move that signing period to the summer. And I think the senior season is still a huge evaluation tool. It's still a time for these players to grow and to continue to get better. And we might even see some opt-outs if that was the case, right? You're already signed. Your ink has already dried on your national letter of intent. Why even go and play a senior season and risk getting hurt, potentially jeopardize all that NIL money? I think it would just create a whirlwind of issues if they moved it to the summer.
The only way that this helps is if you get a DocuSign and you have an NIL right there in front of you, national letter of intent, and you sign right there and you're binded into that contract and you can't get out until the following year. Other than that, that's just another issue that we're creating where you're not giving the prospects an opportunity to get better, or the personnel people to go out and evaluate these players, and everyone's rushing to judgment on the prospects just 3 years and not into that last year where you get from 16 to 17 years old, you grow, you get faster, and you have that better year, and you can project yourself up to a better and a bigger program.
I want to clarify, too, college basketball has this summer signing period. This would be an additional period, so it would be summer, keep December, and February, so it would just open up a whole nother one. So nothing would move necessarily. It would just be another opportunity for players to sign. That brings me to my biggest question that I have to ask you guys. Blair, why does there need to be a signing period at all? Why can't players just sign their NLIs when they commit, when they put on that hat? Can't they just grab their pen as well?
Yeah, I mean that's the big question, right? I think it's for the colleges, it's for the coaches, it's for those programs to be able to secure commitments at a certain time, and it's obviously it creates a finish line, it creates this mirage of, oh, this is where you need to be, this is the conclusion point. It used to be that first Wednesday of February, now they moved it up to that first Wednesday potentially of December, and it just kind of creates a date, and it creates a time for that to happen. It's a great moment. I mean, we love it. We love covering National Signing Day. I think it's needed. I think there needs to be a certain time when players can sign, but right now they need to figure out when that perfect time is. There's too much going on with the transfer portal. There's too much going on with the coaching carousel. All those underlying factors that are changing the way prospects make their decisions and then get out of those decisions, it's just creating a huge headache.
I think you should sign whenever you want to. I think it makes it easier. Now, those contracts or those conversations that you're having, is my scholarship committable or not committable? Once you say, hey, listen, I'm committing, sign. Get it over with. You have, this is where you're going to go. This is where you're going to play for your next 3 to 4 years, whatever way that you want to determine it. But you should be able to just go out there and just sign and get it over with, and make sure that these coaches are holding themselves accountable to the right numbers. The transfer portal does not get out of control, and these kids have somewhere to go at the end of the year.
Yeah, maybe, Blair, the National Signing Day can be like National French Fry Day or National Ice Cream Day. It's just we pick a day and we celebrate it. Because I agree with you. I love doing our marathon National Signing Day shows. I just think that could potentially alleviate some of the issues. I know, Smoke, you and I have talked extensively about just the committable versus the uncommittable offer. It would feel pretty darn committable if you're given an NLI in addition, right, Smoke?
Yeah, you got a DocuSign. We're not going to ages of the fax machine that have to come through. DocuSign right there. You sign your name on there. Now I know instead of having 25 scholarships, I have 24. And I work off of those numbers. And once I get to 17, that's when I'll touch into my transfer portal window and knock that out. So it clears that up also for the people in the front office, the coaches, and the prospects. If you're not going to Division 1A, Power 5, or Group of 5 conference, you can now go to Division 1AA and still go to school and earn a college degree.
I say this every time we have this discussion. Man, I'm glad that we're not the ones that have to make these decisions, because they sure seem complicated, but it does sound like things are actually moving and shaking. So thank you both for the great discussion. You can read more about this on 247sports.com. A lot of interesting threads to pull on here. You fix one thing, you ruin something else, and we'll have way more visit news if you're into that. Highly recommend, though, becoming a VIP member so you can have all of that great exclusive information.